Hello.
Hello, world. It's Brandy and Shannon with the Thriving Relationship.
Tuesday.
Yes.
And with time change, it's like bright outside, so we don't know how
all of
the
a
lighting
sudden
is.
there's real light with us. Ooh, and I'm kicking the chair. Sorry.
Oh, we'll just topple things over.
Earthquake in Idaho. Just kidding.
And it's warm. It was like 50. It felt like you could be out there on the lawn chair
I came
today.
over without like my coat on.
I wore a vest today. It was
Ooh,
exciting.
Yes, happening. I did see that they striped the roads again though with the salt stuff, so I'm afraid that might mean there's another storm coming.
I just don't look anymore.
Everywhere I went today, there was like lines on the road.
It's never a good sign.
No, I just kept being like, no more snow, please.
No, we need to be done. All done.
Mm.
What do we?
Tonight?
We've got 3 weeks. Well, a day short of 3 weeks left for sign up for Sun Valley.
Yes, April 1st. Is that
yes,
cutoff?
April 1st. You must be signed up because
by April 1st.
Because we have to send everything to Sun Valley. So that's a date that's
the date.
The date. So
March 31st. Is there 31 days?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you did.
Yes. I was like, there was
March 31. You can
yes.
slip in on April 1st because I probably won't send the spreadsheet that I need to send to
Okay.
Sun Valley until like the 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah.
But I'll get
It'd be a great April Fool's, right? Like, guess where we're going, honey?
We get to go to
We're going to a couples retreat. But it won't really be a joke.
And you can just offer Sun Valley on the platter.
Mhm.
It'll be okay. We'll be on Sun Valley.
Yeah, maybe that could be the funny. Is like
There's
you're
good
like,
food.
look, we're going to Sun Valley for the weekend,
And
we're going to have rich conversation
for 2 days
with strangers. I love us. We're so fun.
By the end of it, though, we won't be strangers. So
No,
it'll be okay.
no. I say all this lovingly and jokingly.
Join us.
Yes.
Join us. Sign up.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, so we got on last night and asked for topic suggestions, and we got quite a few.
People were talking to us.
It was so
Thank
exciting.
you.
That's the first time anyone has played with us.
We've been doing these for a while.
I know,
Since July.
And always we say, like, if you have
Do you guys have any topics? Anything you want to talk about?
anyone? And so we're just going to go in order.
Yeah.
We made a list with our, and keep adding if you want to add on this. So today we get to tackle trust.
Ooh, that's a big one, right? It kind of touches everything,
Oh, yeah.
right? That's why it's so big. Is it is connected to pretty much all aspects of a relationship.
All of it. And it's, a lot of people tend to think of it in terms of like, I have trust or I don't have
it or
trust.
don't.
Or they just think of it in terms of like the big betrayal.
Yes.
Like, well, I can trust him. He won't, quote unquote, cheat on me, or he won't. But trust is, when we do our retreat, we talk about it in terms of like, think about, do you have financial trust? Do you have parenting trust? Do you have emotional trust? Do you have trust that if you tell someone to take a red box back, they'll do it? Maybe not.
That's an inside joke. You have to come to the retreat to know the rest of it.
Yeah, it's a good one though. But you want to look at all the areas, is it the little things? Is it trust about how we break tasks around the house, tasks around parenting?
Yeah, trust related to like roles, right? That's
Mhm.
kind of what you're talking about, the roles
Yes.
that we have that we kind of carry out in the relationship. It's just, it can be trust related to even just how you manage like groceries in the house. Like, yeah, right? Like if trust,
Did you buy all that stuff at Sam's Club that you weren't supposed to buy? Right. It can be, so when someone comes in and we'll do the big umbrella statement of, I don't trust this person, I'm always like, I bet you do. Like,
I bet there's some areas.
You wouldn't marry someone or be in relationship with someone, hopefully, that you don't have some areas. Maybe you always trust with how they co-parent with you, but you don't really trust them around money. But there's usually something we can find. If there's no areas of trust, we probably should talk.
Yeah,
it's not.
I love it. Brad in the red box.
Oh, no, never lived down. It's Well,
And now that you're not living it down, it's just a really great example.
real world examples are the best for our work. So first off, trust, very big. Second, we're always building
Or breaking.
Correct.
Yeah.
So Brene Brown has this great video that's called The Anatomy of Trust.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about trust as being a jar of marbles.
Yes, marbles.
And we're always either throwing them in or spilling them out.
Yeah.
And so through relationship, this is an area, and all of those different areas that we listed, you can build. And then you're going to have a day where things we threw.
Yeah, where
Toss a
occasionally
couple
some marbles
marbles.
get thrown out. And that's probably normal. I mean, that's
Mhm.
really expected, right? Because we're all human, and sometimes, like, we have to deal with days where there's daylight savings, like, blow back, and no one had enough sleep, and not everyone had to get up their
grumpy.
I hate daylight savings time. I really hate this time of year.
It's impacted your.
It has impacted my emotional
There's
health,
no emotional
my
trust.
mental health, I ate gluten. I glutened myself over it.
It's not good, and then I have to
It was
sit with her.
bad. I know, and I cry about the belly.
I can't trust her with gluten. This is a problem. So think of it in terms of all the different areas. Think of it in terms of you build it. You have opportunity to build it. We wouldn't have our jobs if there wasn't the ability to build it back.
Right.
So most of the time we work with couples that there's been some sort of betrayal in trust.
Right. It could be like actual physical affairs. Sometimes it's emotional affairs. Sometimes it's substance. That's a lot of the ones that I deal with is that, substance comes into the relationship, and that is experienced like an affair.
Yeah, sometimes it's more subtle about, like, I don't really trust how you're managing the kids, or I don't really trust shopping at Sam's Club, but whatever it is, you're bringing that in. Brad, I trust what you shop. Don't read into that. But you need to be able to identify, understand where that is coming from, and then there's hope to build it back. You can build it back. I watch people that, I was just talking with a couple this morning that said, like, a few months ago, they would not have ever believed that they could build the trust in the relationship that they have today.
Right.
And so sometimes, especially after maybe a bigger betrayal or a series of betrayals for years, it can feel really overwhelming and like you're not ever going to be able to get this trust back in your relationship. But really, like, there is hope. There's light. I promise. You can build it back, but it takes the work and the communication.
Yeah, the communication, the conversations about it, those are really that's some of the most important aspect of it is we have to be able to figure out what will it take to build it back. A lot of times the couples I work with, like, initially, it's like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, right? And we're kind of taking away all these things we don't want our partner to do. But really, that's a hard way to set up how do we build back trust. It's really kind of share, like, it's really helpful to me when you do this. When if you say you're going to cook dinner, that you cook dinner tonight. When I get home, that process has started. Like, that helps build trust for me. Or if you're going to drop off the red box, that you actually drop off the red box.
Poor Brad. Yeah, it is that. And being able to, it's back to that boundary word, the boundary conversation of being very explicit. Like, if we want to build trust in, say, I don't know, money's an easier one. Like, how do we keep each other accountable? Do we share receipts? Do we have conversations every day? What are we doing to be able to outline those very specific boundaries or needs? Around, especially, people outside of the relationship. That is a big one. That's a conversation I'm always having with people is, you've got to be able to build the trust, or in order to build the trust, you first have to start with, like, I really don't feel comfortable with you texting another male or texting another female, and having those conversations. What if they text you? What do you do next? And then understanding that no matter how many boundary conversations you have, something new will get thrown in there.
Yes.
You will run into some new opportunity for growth, opportunity for conversation. And then you'll have to go back and be like, oh, we didn't really cover that, and here we are. So then we've got to go back and maybe shift. And also, trust shifts over time. So maybe sometimes boundaries are really, like, tight for a while.
Right.
And then they get looser as you build more trust in the relationship.
Yeah. Yep. As we have experience, the more marbles we get put in that jar, oftentimes it becomes easier to let down, the anxieties that surround a certain topic. You start to have more trust in that area. And so some of those limits or boundaries just can expand, fade away, kind of just depending on what your experience is with it.
And marbles, really, when you think of that jar, it's safety.
Yeah.
I'm just building safety. So the safer I feel in each of those different topic areas, the less restrained they most likely are.
Right.
Constrained, restrained? I don't know.
Both.
Something. Carrie will chime in and tell us which words.
Probably constrained.
She'll tell us what words to do. Are there trust triggers? Oh, yes. So, do you want to take this one? Do you want to take childhood? You can take childhood.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so childhood, sometimes from our childhood, we have experiences, right, that we may not even be fully aware of.
But they shape
later
how
in
we
life.
feel.
Yeah, they shape how we experience certain things. If you grew up, sometimes, like, you can have a couple come in the office. Both can have grown up with maybe very little money in the house, okay? And what's really interesting is depending on how I don't know how they run with it, I guess, if you will. For one, not enough money causes them to hold in, hunker down, save. For the other, the very opposite effect might come out. When money is lower, then there's this compensation that might come out to compensate for maybe their own experiences in childhood. And so there can be all kinds of different factors that trigger us from childhood or previous relationships or, just any different experiences that we have in life that play out in our current relationship.
Yeah, it's always interesting to look at what is the the parents that you really looked up to. So if you grow up through childhood and you don't have a fundamental trust in your father figure, or maybe the father figure wasn't there, that will play out in your relationship. And so sometimes you're dealing with, I don't even know why, but I'm holding back and I'm not really feeling like I can trust anyone fully.
Right.
And so that's always an interesting one to dive into. When I ask hubby for something after work, hubby goes, right. Oh, we're getting all real world examples today. So yeah, that would be a great conversation to have around, like, the need is, I'm overwhelmed with kids, maybe, in theory. I don't know, Carrie. And that I really need you to come home because I'm over it. Or he needs to have a conversation of, I need X amount of time to be able to restore before I walk in the door. So all sorts of fun conversations. Yeah. Sabotaging. Oh, yeah, you can. So if you don't, really big trust issues for those people that may have grown up in a house where there was maybe abuse in the house, you really struggle with trusting another human to be in that close of relationship. And so you'll end up hey, if I do this, are you going to leave me?
Right.
If I do this, are you going to leave me? And so you end up having a lot of more of that. And you may not even be aware that you're doing it. Right. You just don't. And it takes that awareness to be able to have the couple be able, that partner to be able to see, oh, I'm poking at you.
Right. Oh, I'm doing
it.
Yeah.
And the other one knowing that it's actually not about them.
Right.
What's about trust? Take a look at the Brene Brown video. I think that was the most helpful for me, The Anatomy of Trust.
Yeah.
Isn't it a soul session? I think it's a soul session.
It could be. I'm sure we'll find a link and throw it in the comments afterwards.
Yes. Testing. Yes, we just covered testing. Any other questions out there? We covered what it is, the different pieces and parts. How do we build it? And I think the biggest thing is having hope. If there's two people that want to build it back, you can build it back. That's what's been the most impressive about the work that we do, is that there will be people you just, anxiety, that you think that would really, I don't know if it can be fixed, and I watch them and they're able to build it back.
Right.
So anxiety related to trust, Yeah, I think especially talking about that earlier example of anytime. So it could be from childhood, it could be in the current relationship. So if there was a betrayal in that relationship, it's really hard to open self up again, to be vulnerable, to really let someone, I think about it as eggs in a basket. Like, oh, how many eggs?
These really fragile.
And so it is a process that's going to give anxiety. And the only way I know around that is to just keep talking about, like, this is feeling scary, and make sure you're working with someone who is absolutely ready and focused on building that back.
Right.
Oh, thank you, Brad. What are your thoughts on the anxiety?
The anxiety, I think I totally concur with what you're saying, that it is kind of that ability to continue trying to go back to it. And I think of it as, find areas where you can make small baby steps first, that feel more safe to talk about, right? If it's a certain topic, if it's a certain conversation, if it's a certain dialogue, find the areas that are just less, like, on the scale of anxiety of, right, 1 to 10, like, find a 2 or a 3 to practice it and have that conversation and share, like, this is what would be helpful to me. If you would do this, that helps me feel more trust, and vice versa. And then have practice with that and see how that goes. And then, gently move up, because hopefully as you build some of that trust on the lower end, right, those other ones might actually move down the scale some, because you start to get evidence that says, I can trust you, and I can trust me, right? A lot of times when we actually have a lot of that anxiety about trust, it's really about trusting ourselves. And so some of these, so I want to call them games. They're not games, but they're practices
exercises.
You can exercises you can practice with yourself.
Yeah, I think the biggest piece is to just keep, a lot of people, we're doing so well, and then something happens and they want to go clear back. Like, understand that unless there was a big betrayal, again, the marble jar did not topple completely over.
Right.
Like, you were able to make progress. And so know that you're starting with more trust than you did in the beginning. And you may go back a little bit, but you're able to come back from it. There's hope there. How do you trust someone with an addiction? His addiction is in a substance. I struggle with. All right,
Addiction lady, yeah. So in my experience working with couples that deal with, primarily I deal with substance addiction. Most addiction is generally felt like real full-on betrayal, like an affair, right? Oftentimes, we speak of the addiction with the couples I work with like it's a third party in the relationship. And so we really kind of have to approach it from that and give the opportunity for both parties to kind of talk about how that third party, that addiction piece actually impacts them. Because I don't know anybody I've ever worked with that dealt with addiction, that addiction is a coping mechanism for something else. It's a coping mechanism for something deeper, right? Deeper anxieties, something else that
trauma.
Yeah, that this gives me a way to generally self-soothe, whatever that is. And so it's a process of kind of digging deep enough to understand what's the big purpose for leaning on the addiction in the relationship, or in really it's a wedge in the relationship oftentimes, because most addictions, my belief is most addictions are a dysfunction in relationships, and how we approach relationships. That's kind of at play.
Yeah, I do the same thing as far as moving it out separate, but then it's also, do you both want to be on the same page? Because some people will walk in and maybe the person that has an addiction doesn't identify as having a problem. And so trying to build trust in that it's not time yet, they're not ready. So you have to make sure that both people are willing to look at it as that thing in the third chair. And then the boundary conversations become really important there. And then being able to go back and do some healing for both people.
Yeah, and those can be really challenging conversations. I mean, that can be really hard stuff. So Though, you know, if you're finding that they're really hard conversations, those might be ones that you try to lean on a professional to help walk you through.
Right.
Because my guess is it's probably been a sticking point for some time in the relationship, which oftentimes means both sides of the issue have like built a camp
Right.
about why this is a problem and why this is okay, or, you know, whatever it is. We've kind of really built ourselves a team in our head about our view on it. And so it can be really hard to break through some of those defense mechanisms to really have the conversation. But when you can pull some of those defense mechanisms, enough of them away, that you can start to have conversations in a safe setting, that's kind of really where the headway comes from. So.
Yeah, and it's absolutely similar to an affair, because when you're talking about betrayal, I think usually is I am choosing, or I'm drawn to, or, you know, for addiction, there's always the layers of disease there, but I am turning towards something else instead of you.
Right.
And that may be that money gets spent in a different way, or time gets spent in a different way, or I'm not emotionally or physically available. And so betrayal, we always tend to really focus on affair, but betrayal is just so much more complex.
Right. Yeah. There's so many more levels to it.
But the healing process can be very similar.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Great question.
Yeah, thank you for those questions.
Anyone else out there? Don't want to hang up too soon.
I'm almost out of tea.
We need Brad to come through and get more tea. So we covered it at the beginning, but we're 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
So we have a little less than 3 weeks left to sign up for Sun Valley. So then that'll give the opportunities to just explore topics like this one. We do cover trust in Sun Valley, and then being able to have exercises to go even farther with it as a couple.
Yep, and we're there kind of on the sidelines if you want assistance. So
you can wave us in.
Yep, you can wave us in, you can wave us goodbye, whatever works, you know, but that's part of kind of what we offer in the retreat is, you know, it's not, it is, you get both our professional help and assistance kind of if you choose to have it.
Oh, we'll fight over who gets to.
Jimmy John's delivered to you there.
No,
probably not clear out here.
I know, my kids, I think they've scoped out Domino's is all that will deliver out here. Good, I'm glad that was helpful. So next week, let's see, I'm trying to remember our list in order.
I know.
We're going to talk about blended families next week, the challenges of that blended families face.
Yeah.
So that will be a good one.
That is my cup of tea, blended families. Funny, I'm so funny.
All right, everybody. As always, we're so glad that you were here.
Yeah, thanks for hanging with us this night.
And you can put in the comment section more ideas, and we'll just keep hitting the different topics as we go.
Yeah. All right. I hope you guys have as much sunshine as we did today. You guys have a wonderful week, and until next Tuesday.